Hello, I'm back again with another Impressions video. Apparently this is my life now, talking about shows that I've watched a little bit of that are brand new in the hopes of getting slightly more views than usual. But I am genuinely interested to find out whether the massive amount of new animation content, especially adult animation stuff, is any good. And today, the thing that popped up on Netflix, Adventure Beast, it's a Netflix original. It's basically, the entire show is a vehicle for a real-life conservationist, wildlife author, man, and activist whose name is Bradley Trevor Grieve. I think that there was some production support from New South Wales. I saw the logo there in the credits, so maybe there's some kind of support from Australia on an official level. But basically, the show is an adult animation program where it's like a fictionalized version of the main guy who they call BTG, which comes across as a little bit cringy. And he's accompanied by two fictional assistants. They are played by actors Denise Cabanela, not sure if that's the correct pronunciation, I'm sorry about that, and Josh Zuckerman. It's trying to be an educational show on the one hand because it's throwing animal facts at you, which is Bradley Trevor Grieve's whole thing. He's mainly an author at this point, I think. Since about 2000, he's just been putting out books seemingly as fast as he can manage. I think it says he's done like 24 books at this point. And I don't know, even just a few minutes into this Impressions video, I want to just speculate about the behind the scenes here because it feels just like a publicity thing for him specifically. I don't know much about the guy. I'm not a zoologist person. I'm not a conservation activist. I don't know whether people like this guy or not. I don't know whether they see him as being very genuine and helpful to the cause of conservation. I feel like at this point, in this show in particular, it's not doing much on the educational side other than throwing a million fun facts at you, most of which you'll forget because that's how animal shows work, and then just giving this overall sense of, wow, nature's really neat, and there are a lot of very interesting species that we need to take care of. If that's the level of education you're providing in your supposedly educational program, I think we're past that. I think we're past the point where raising awareness on the level of nature is neat. I don't know how useful that is. At least so far, there hasn't been any tangible stuff. It's telling you how you can actually help out, it's not giving a great sense of actionable advice, I suppose, or anything like that. And here's the thing. I feel like if it's just going with the awareness angle, it just wants to bring awareness to different types of animals and aspects of the natural world, that would work much better for a kid show because what are kids going to do other than just like, oh, we need to ingrain in them that it's important to conserve wildlife and important to conserve the natural world. It makes more sense there. So again, it seems strange that they decided to make this an adult animation program because the only thing that really qualifies it as being adult animation is that they tell some slightly edgy jokes. They basically talk about like animal sex. The character of Bonnie, which is Cabanela's character, her whole role on the show is just to be like the audience insert character who reacts to stuff like, ooh, that's gross, or oh, that's really cool, or no, I'm gonna insert a joke here that the young people, I guess, are supposed to like. And I'm discussing the educational side of things to the best of my ability. Of course, it's limited because when you have an educational program, a piece of supposedly educational entertainment, I feel like it's incredibly rare that you get something that's both educational and entertaining, especially in terms of like adult programs aimed at adult audiences. I was hoping that it would at least be either educational or entertaining, like at least get one of the two, and then I could kind of recommend it to people. But based on the 4 or 5 episodes that I watched of the show so far, I don't think it's much of either, and that strikes me as a failure, just all around failure to me. And that's why I wonder about the behind the scenes, because Bradley Trevor Grieve's Wikipedia page, which I'm sure they made sure was nice and tight before the show went out, but who knows, maybe he's just a great guy. It seems like he's done a lot of, made a lot of contributions to various foundations. I don't know if the foundations are great. Again, this isn't my thing. This is not my area of expertise. But he seems fine, seems okay. He seems to genuinely care about this stuff. Sure, he's also probably profiting a great deal from these couple of dozen books that he's put out. But there was also an interesting little bit on the Wikipedia page for this guy that said he's really private. Like, yeah, he's, kind of a public figure. They even claim that he's a household name. Okay, not my household, I guess. Okay, sure, he's a private guy. It specifically said something about how much he hates publicity. This is publicity. This is a very clear publicity move. It seems like it's publicity specifically for him and not just conservation in general. That's not how it comes off at all. So whose idea was this? Like, did someone push him to do this? I would have a hard time believing that he was pushing for this to happen. And again, it's obviously just speculation, but if he got pushed into this and he wasn't so crazy about it, I immediately have a lot more sympathy for the guy. You know what I mean? He had his PR team said this is going to be great. Like, it'll help you promote whichever 5 books you're gonna release next month. Okay, fine. I'm a little bit more lenient. I still don't like the show. I think it's supposed to be a comedy. I don't find it funny. Obviously, that's very subjective, but I even have a tough time imagining someone else like really cracking up at this. It's really basic adult animation stuff. The one like slightly more positive thing I can say about it as just a piece of adult animation is that it at least has some kind of art direction. Like, it has a whiff of style in terms of its visuals. It's not just the most bog standard version of the Family Guy look that we've seen in like Big Mouth and Paradise PD and that other show that I talked about a while back that I completely forget the name of and the premise and the characters. But here at least there's some kind of style, kind of cute character designs, I guess. But beyond that, just on like the technical side and even performances and stuff, a lot of it feels like the absolute bare minimum. I really don't feel like the team behind this show was trying very hard. And I know not only is that speculation, but it's mean-spirited speculation. That's just the vibe I get from it. It feels phoned in almost all of the technical aspects. No, I don't find it entertaining or fun. There are animal facts. Again, I think they just go right out of your brain after you hear them. And I don't know what good it's doing to share those animal facts with people. Is it just marketing for this guy? Do you see? I even tried taking notes, and there wasn't much. There just wasn't much to say about it, honestly. I don't think it's entertaining. I don't see how it's a positive thing for conservation efforts. I don't know. Maybe some foundations put some money towards it or something. Ooh, that would be gross if Netflix took money from like wildlife conservation foundations to produce this. But those groups, those organizations thought that they were like, this was part of a media outreach thing. Ooh, I feel slimy just thinking about all these potentially fictional scenarios that I'm coming up with in my head. One of the only slightly interesting things I can talk about here, I guess, is how each episode over the credits, which of course Netflix really tries to roll you past the credits to go on to the next one to encourage binge watching. But if you're quick with the remote and you tell it that you want to watch the credits, you see these live action sequences where it's live action Bradley Trevor Grieve and live action Denise Cabanela still in character as Bonnie, and they're hanging out in like basically the Zaboomafoo house, just looks more modern, and they have the main guy dressed up, they styled him to look like outdoorsy but somewhat chic and modern, kind of the hipster flannel look, and they have these scenes of scripted banter that are just like stingers on the end of the episode, but they're supposed to feel natural, like they're just hanging out in this cool house with a bunch of with just animals hanging around inside the house. Those segments kind of made my skin crawl. And here's the funny thing is that despite the fact that I thought those bits were very cringy, I think this show would have been significantly more successful if the whole show was live action in that kind of environment, and like they kind of treated it like a weird kid show but for adults. I feel like that would have been more entertaining in a way, and I also feel like I get more direct information from those segments just because Wildlife Man says, here's the thing. I don't like how often they try to compare absolutely everything to human behavior, because how about we just try to understand the animals on their own terms and not compare absolutely everything to human experience? That seems antithetical to me. Anyway, I would have been more interested in the show if it was that format, other than this really weak adult animation comedy angle that is the vast majority of the show. So yeah, it's strange to talk about. I don't understand the motivations behind the show, really. I don't know whether it's doing any good. I don't even know whether they expected it to do any good or to motivate conservation efforts in any way. But it also makes it a little bit difficult to really throw down on, because maybe all the intentions are good. Maybe everyone involved, down to the animation department people and the poorly paid Netflix writers, maybe everyone really cared about this. I just don't get that sense, because even in the performances, it doesn't feel like people are trying at all. That's that. It doesn't make me upset. It's mostly forgettable. I'm confused as to why it exists at all. And judge for yourself, I suppose. I don't get the sense that this is getting a warm reception, but please go right ahead. Share your opinions. It's just there on Netflix, so everybody has Netflix. Just check it out, I guess, if you really want to. But otherwise, I'm going to get out of here. Let's get started editing, I suppose. And that's my Wednesday night. Thanks for stopping by.